Hey guys, I just wanted to make another video here to show you the newest rifle that I've got is this Swiss K31, and these things are just awesome, let me tell you. If you've never seen one of these things, you gotta check it out. This is a straight pull bolt action rifle. You just pull straight back and push straight forward. So the K31 gets its name, obviously, from the fact it was issued in 1931. And this was basically the standard issue rifle for the Swiss Army from 1931 until sometime in the 1950s. But even this is just replacing the older version of their straight pull bolt action rifle called the K1911. This is basically just a shortened version of the K1911. They shortened the action quite a bit, they shortened the bolt, and the easiest way to tell the difference is the K1911 has a big gap between the trigger guard and the magazine, and on this, because they shortened everything, there's almost no gap. Well, there is no gap between the trigger guard and the magazine. So when you're looking at pictures of these online, it's really easy to tell just by looking at the trigger guard and the magazine if it's a K1911 or the later K31. This is the ammunition that it shoots. It's called 7.5 Swiss, or 7.5 by 55. Ballistically, it's very similar to a 308. In fact, I think if you're reloading it, you can literally use the same bullets you would use to reload 308. 7.62 by 51. For military surplus ammunition, this stuff is extremely accurate. Comes in this box of 10, and the boxes of 10 actually come in a package of 6 boxes. So normally this is how you'd get the ammunition. This is how it would have been handed out in the military. So there's 6 boxes of 10. There's 60 rounds in this box. This one's dated 1981. So yeah, that's how the ammunition comes. And that loads into the magazine as a 6-round, if I didn't mention it, is a 6-round detachable magazine. It is a double stacked magazine, so it's actually incredibly easy to load. Just like that. The trigger on this thing is actually really good. It's part of the reason why this rifle is so accurate. It's a combination, you know, it's got accurate ammo. For military surplus ammo, it's actually very accurate. Obviously the barrel, the way even the handguards are mounted on here, it's done in a way that it's not putting too much clamping force on the barrel itself. It's not quite free-floated, but it's kind of like a similar idea. And of course, you got to have a good trigger, and this thing has a really good trigger on it. It's a 2-stage trigger. It's got a lot of take-up, but it is a crisp 3.5-pound pull to break. Again, there's a lot of take-up, but it's got a very solid stop. I mean, you know when it's going to break, and then there's almost no creep when it breaks. Very good trigger. The safety is this ring on the back of the bolt, and you basically just pull it and turn it 45 degrees, and that's basically deactivates the trigger, and it locks up the bolt so you can't open it. Not too hard to operate compared to some of the other bolt actions of the era. The way the lockup system works on this is there is a camming system in here, meaning that when you pull back on the handle here, and by the way, even this handle knob is machined aluminum. How cool is that? Some of them had Bakelite handles here. I'm assuming that's the older K1911s, but most of the K31s, or maybe all of the K31s anyways, have this aluminum handle, so the Bakelite ones would crack. So as you can see, as you pull it back, It does actually rotate the bolt carrier, if you will. So that's basically what unlocks it. You see the two locking lugs on the bolt, and then when you push it in all the way, rotates again, locks it in. Another interesting thing is the butt plate. If you've read about these online, you've probably read about there being a piece of paper underneath the butt plate, and indeed on mine there was. It's a piece of paper that was put under there when it was issued. It basically just has the soldier's name and I guess his like serial number, if you will, as to the soldier that this rifle belonged to. And sure enough, yeah, like I said, mine had one in there. The sights are very typical of the time. You know, going up to 1,500 yards in this case. So, you know, I know it's a pretty accurate rifle and definitely a powerful cartridge, but 1,500 yards, I wouldn't be able to see anything out that far, let alone hit anything. But nonetheless, most of the sights from this era were, let's just say, very optimistic. On the front here, we do have a bayonet lug, but I don't think any of these were issued with the bayonets, so the bayonets are really rare. And then I used to think this was, something to do with the bayonet here. Kind of looks like the bayonet would clip onto that, and maybe it does. I'm not really 100% sure, but actually this is really here for sort of like the shelving system that the Swiss Army would have had when they had these, racked up in storage, I guess. Is there was something on the shelf that this would clip into to hold these things. I forgot to show you one thing here is to remove the bolt. It's got a little spring-loaded lever here, and that's just to remove the bolt. So it's a little bit different. You get a good look at the bolt. Again, it's incredibly well built. Just very reliable, very durable. The magazine does stop the bolt from going in when it's empty. And yeah, that's that. You can see the Swiss Arms logo on the top of the receiver. I always thought that was a pretty cool touch. And the sling on there. So we've got like a leather sling. It's adjustable here and where the bolt goes through with the holes. And it's also adjustable here. You can slide it, so you can slide it nice and tight up against the side of the gun, and then when you need to use it, you just slide it loose. So yeah, it's a pretty nice sling. They also have this neat little cover on the muzzle. Basically just covers the muzzle to protect it, but it also covers the front sight. Not only does that protect the front sight, but it also means you're not going to accidentally shoot the rifle and forget to leave the cover on there. As you look down the sights, it's very obvious that your front sight's being covered. So they thought of everything, and I mean, between that and the fact that none of the ammunition for this thing is corrosive, and they never really saw war, war use either. I mean, the Swiss were obviously neutral in World War II, and most of these were made in the 30s and 40s, but never really used other than for training. The barrels are usually in really good shape. Again, the fact none of the ammo is corrosive, that definitely helps too. I don't usually keep my targets, but I thought this one was pretty good. This was the second time I ever shot the rifle. 100 yards with iron sights, and my eyes aren't the greatest, so 100 yards with iron sights for me isn't exactly easy. And this is basically just resting the rifle off of a backpack. This is a 5-round group, so it's actually 5 shots, and then I reloaded and then took another 5 shots. And if you look at it overall, you might not think it's spectacular, but when you look closer and you see there's 3 rounds right there, 2 of them touching, and then there's another 3 of them touching basically. It's actually, I think, pretty good. It's definitely a rifle that can shoot better than I can. So there's a look at my Swiss K31. Highly recommend these rifles. I picked mine up at Canadian Tire, a local retail store in Canada, for $300. And for $300, it's really hard to beat. Again, it's very well built, it's very durable, very strong, very reliable, and very accurate. the biggest downfall is just the price of the ammunition. Here in Canada, after taxes, it's about $1 a round. Now, it's not as bad as it sounds when you take into account how accurate this ammo is and the fact that it's non-corrosive. It's maybe a little bit more expensive than buying, say, .308, but when you get the rifle for $300, and it's, you know, a pretty neat piece of history as well, the fact you can still shoot it and get, you know, good ammunition, it's not too big of a deal to me that it costs a little bit more.